So, you have not bathed today, is that right?
That is correct. I did, however, bathe last night, so it's close enough to today.
Okay. And how often do you, what's the most you've gone without bathing on this tour?
On this tour? It was 3 days. I would say I was a max of 3 days. We left from Delaware and drove out to Anaheim. That was 3 days of travel that I did not bathe. Then I believe I had one shower, and 3 days later, which was last night, I showered again. So, yeah, it's been a stint of 3 days, twice.
And when you don't get to bathe on a regular basis, do you at least change your underwear and your socks?
Of course not.
Oh.
No. I wasn't as thorough as I should have been, but I keep my wipes and, clean the essential areas.
Oh, okay.
And, do my best to change. No, I always change. But, yeah, being on tour can be brutal in the bathing department.
Oh, cool. Well, I have bad sinuses, so I'm all good.
As far as I know, I'm okay right now. So
you're on tour with it's Shai Hulud, right?
That's my band, correct?
And you're on tour with Early Graves.
Correct. These guys, Early Graves.
They're from here.
Yeah, right around this area, I believe.
Cool. And how long has that tour been going on for?
Well, we started with them at Anaheim, so I guess it's been about maybe 4 days or so.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome band. I've wanted to tour with these guys for a long time. I've known them for a long time, and I'm very proud of the band. If you know anything about Early Graves, what they went through with their former singer having passed away, I never thought that I would have a chance to tour with them. So the strength of that band musically and emotionally is through the roof. So it's aside from the fact that I just love the band to begin with, it's a pretty big honor to play with them, to play with such awesome and strong people. So we all made it happen, and I'm happy to be here with those guys.
Yeah, they're a pretty amazing band. I can say that we're very proud of them.
Absolutely, as well everyone should be.
Now, you're originally from the South, from Florida, right?
No, I was actually born in New York, but I was raised in Florida since I was about 5. So yeah, I was raised in South Florida, Pompano Beach.
Okay. You have crocodiles running around and that kind of Florida that I've heard of?
Yeah, crocodiles, alligators, orange monsters, everything. Everything you've ever heard is all true.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Now you're back in New York, is that right?
Shai Hulud moved to Poughkeepsie, New York in 2000, and we lived there until about 2010. In 2010, I moved to New Jersey, so I live in South Jersey, close to Philly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You have a very popular governor there, right? Mr. Christie is his name.
Yeah, I think he's polarizing. Some people love him and some people hate him. I've seen interviews where I understand, because sometimes he says things that I love and sometimes he says things that I hate. So I think he's a pretty polarizing personality.
He doesn't have a polarizing teleprompter.
I don't know.
He speaks from the cuff, from the hip, right?
Oh, does he?
I'm asking you.
Oh, I have no idea. Some of the things he says sure sounds like it wasn't too planned.
Right. Well, I guess honesty sometimes sucks, I suppose. Now, Dune worms, that's Shai Hulud, right?
Correct. It's the sandworm of the desert. Shai Hulud, that's where we got our name. When 1995, we knew we wanted to be a hardcore band, but a slightly different hardcore band. We didn't want to have just a tough guy hardcore name or something to do with struggle or sports. So we wanted to take something with any depth behind it, and we chose the novel Dune and ended up picking Shai Hulud because we knew that we wanted the band to be different, and eventually, we were young kids, so we didn't know what we were doing, but we wanted to give our band a lot of warmth and a lot of depth. And since we didn't have it yet, we wanted to take a name that already had something to it, and that's why we ended up choosing Shai Hulud.
When you talk about struggle and tough guy, you're probably talking about bands like Warzone and whatnot, right?
Well, I wasn't thinking of Warzone specifically. I do love Warzone, but I was just thinking we used to joke around back then. Thinking, what are we going to name our band? X Tacklebach X. There's a hardcore type of name that you can come up with. X Forthright X. Sure. And I think there has been a Forthright, and not that it's a bad name, but we knew that we weren't going to be entirely cut from that cloth. So, should I be looking at you or them?
It's all good. No, you're fine.
So we knew we were going to be entirely cut from that cloth. So we wanted to have something, because we knew our sound was a little separate, stemmed from hardcore, but not entirely. So we wanted a name that represented that. And that's what I mean by, a lot of bands were using sports references. A lot of bands were using names that had to do with, inner struggle and stuff. And we just knew that wasn't us. So hence Shai Hulud.
Did you coin the phrase metalcore?
Certainly not. Speaking of Warzone, there's an ad, and I've posted it on Shai Hulud's Facebook page a few times just to show the world that we had nothing to do with the creation of metalcore. If I was smart, I'd probably try to claim it, but no.
Sure.
Honesty over intelligence. So I think it was Caroline Records when they put out Warzone's second album, Open Your Eyes, I think it's called. They said, the new breed of metalcore, Warzone.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, and that was before I was still in metal bands back then.
Right.
So, the term metalcore has nothing to do with us. We, if anything, we would joke around about it, and we put the term on our shirts because we thought, well, we love hardcore and we play hardcore, but we also love metal, and we incorporate that, so we're not necessarily hardcore, we're metalcore, and we put it on our t-shirts. And maybe at the most, because we emblazoned it,
right,
maybe it was popularized by that, but certainly we had nothing to do with the creation of the sound. Cro-Mags came out 20 years before we did, and we certainly had nothing to do with the creation of the term, because there's that Warzone ad that I mentioned.
So do these numbers sound right? 7 record labels, 28 members, and 4 CDs. Is that accurate?
I don't think so. 7 record labels? I mean, we've only legitimately signed to 2.
Okay.
We were signed to Revelation, then we were signed to Metal Blade.
Not Century Media.
No, we were never signed to Century Media. Century Media asked us to be on their Bad Brains tribute, which we did.
I see.
Trustkill Records asked us to do a split with Another Victim. We did that.
Oh, that's where that comes from. That you had like one song on one label. And
Undecided Records asked us to do a Metallica cover on a split with Boy Sets Fire. But as far as I can recall, and I'm getting old, so maybe I'm incorrect, but as far as I recall, we've only signed to Revelation Records, which is where our first home was, and our current home, Metal Blade.
Both great record companies, I would imagine.
Yeah, I love both. We just went to visit Revelation the other day. Revelation's awesome. Some of the greatest people I know, and Metal Blade has been awesome to us since we signed. We're a small fish in a big pond, and they treat us very well, and they let us swim in their pond, which is
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very kind. So we've been lucky with both labels.
So Uniform Choice, Testament, No Effects, Hatebreed, do these all sound like influences of yours?
I love all of the above. Uniform Choice, huge influence. Testament, huge influence. Not necessarily on Shai Hulud, but on me personally. And my playing, which of course bleeds into Shai Hulud. Who else you met? No Effect was a huge influence. And Hatebreed and us started around the same time, so I don't know that they're an influence, but I sure love Hatebreed for sure. Got into them at the same time everybody else did, especially in Florida when Satisfaction came out.
Right.
Changed a lot of people's lives for sure.
Absolutely. Now, Reach Beyond the Sun is the new one, right?
Yep, correct.
So I listened to it. It seemed to me like a little more of a mature album. Does that make sense to you?
I hope. Yeah.
Maturer, maybe.
I mean, I'm happy to hear that. I hope that's the case. That's a big compliment. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we did our best. We're older. I like to think that we make smarter decisions musically. But yeah, I mean, if it comes across as a mature record, that's great. I hope that all of our records are mature, but some of the early ones, since we were kids, even I go back and listen to them and I think, geez, what the hell were we doing? Right. What the hell were we saying? But I think every band that's been playing for a while goes back and feels that way. I know Sick of It All feels that way, So
I'm sure Metallica probably goes back and go, what the hell?
The hell were we thinking?
What's with all the changes and stuff, huh?
Yeah, it happens. Life takes you in funny places, right?
Now you have your original vocal. No, Chad is not the original vocal. Is he?
Chad is not the original vocalist. The very original vocalist was Damien Moyle. He was in a lot of popular bands. He was in a band called Morning Again and Culture, and also As Friends Rust. Before those bands, he joined us in 1995, and he was one of the people I started Shai Hulud with. But he only lasted a few months, and then he went on to Morning Again, and that's when we got Chad Gilbert, who sang on Reach Beyond the Sun, and he was 15 years old, I think, in 1996, which is when we picked him up.
Chad has been doing a lot of record producing throughout the years.
I don't know when he started. I mean, he's doing a lot now.
He did the new one, right?
Yeah. He both sang on it and he produced it. He's done Terror. He just finished up Alpha and Omega. I think he did Lisa Loeb, maybe. I know he's doing a lot of stuff. He's definitely working hard at producing as well as songwriting with both of his other bands.
Do you have a favorite New Found Glory album?
New Found Glory albums. God, put me on the spot, huh?
Oh, we can just scratch this. Not that question.
You don't need to scratch it. It's funny. I'll tell you a little story. When I met Chad Gilbert, I played in a ska punk band called Bingo Mutt, and he loved Bingo Mutt. When I first met him, he was probably 13 years old, and he knew that I liked punk as well as hardcore, so he would say to me, how do you feel about Blink-182? You like Blink-182? I said, nah, it's a little too cutesy for me. How do you feel about Green Day? You like Green Day? I said, nah, it's a little too cutesy for me. I liked Propaganda, Snuff, No Effects, Bad Religion, Descendants, punk that maybe had some poppy qualities to it, but it wasn't as cute and as adorable as maybe Blink-182 or Green Day. And when Chad started New Found Glory, I couldn't say for sure what his influences were, but I think they went more in that direction than they did the direction that like the punk that I grew up with. So as much as I'm blown away by New Found Glory live, and as incredible as they are as a live band and what they've done, it's not the kind of music that I necessarily listen to. But I do remember, I remember on their self-titled album, there was one of the riffs in the first song. I remember saying to Chad, "That's awesome. Did you write that?" Chad's a very clever guy. He writes a lot of really cool stuff. So I'll never take anything away from him musically or the band, because they are great for everything that they do.
Very good. Now you have a few guest vocalists on this album, like you did on the last one, right?
Yeah. Did we have many on the last? We had a couple on the last one. We had Joey from The Banner. We had Jay Costa from Thy Will Be Done. That was on Misanthropy Pure. This one, we had definitely a lot more, and it was fun. It was a great, awesome time to have so many different friends be a part of the new record.
That's awesome. Now, is there a single off the new album? Is there going to be a video to be made, or?
Yeah. Well, as far as the single, I'm not sure what it would be considered. The first song that was released was Reach Beyond the Sun, which is one of my favorites on the record. But I think the second one that was a lyric video was a song called A Human Failing, and I think we're going to do a music video for that, and maybe another one within the next couple of months. So videos are coming, and as far as the single, I guess it would be one of those two, either Reach Beyond the Sun or A Human Failing.
Cool. And the artwork on the new album, is this somebody that you used in the past?
Yeah, many times. It's a guy named Dave Quiggle. He did a demo release of ours. It was a retrospective CD that we put out on Revelation a few years back. He did the reissues of Hearts Once Nourished with Hope and Compassion and Profound Hatred of Man. He also did Misanthropy Pure, our first record on Metal Blade, and he's now done our last album, Reach Beyond the Sun. We've worked with him many times, and he... sometimes we were on the phone and we don't exactly know where we're going, and by the end, usually because of his cleverness, at the last moment we nail the absolute perfect artwork. He's great, and we will definitely work with him many more times.
That's awesome. And what about what kind of equipment are you using?
I've been using the same stuff. We're sponsored by ESP, so they're kind enough to give me a couple guitars. And that's really helpful. We don't make enough to buy any guitars, so I usually use ESP LTDs, which I love. I'm not using this opportunity to thank our sponsors, but if
I understand.
But if you're asking me what I use, we use Planet Waves cords and Diodario strings because they also sponsor us. Thanks, Hugh. And I've always loved their products. So that was something we use, and we're not sponsored by Marshall, but I've had the same Marshall JCM TSL for over 10 years, and I absolutely love it. Wow. I know that it's not a popular Marshall. Everyone likes the JCM 800s and 900s, more of a classic one. I don't know anything about gear. I don't know what the difference is between the 2000s and the 8 and 900s, but I love my amp. I love the sound of it. So that's what I've been using for 10 years, and not to say I wouldn't use anything else, but I'll always have that with me. It's just it's what I think a heavy, clean sound should be for a metal or hardcore band. So it works really well for us.
Excellent.